Order in the court. Are you ready? And the Hadith literature is just one example, but they go to the university library and they find that almost all the work that they can find in English written on it is written by Western scholars or non-Muslim scholars. Some of them from Japan, some of them from all over the world, but they're almost entirely written by non-Muslims. I'm not saying the research is bad. Actually, much of it is very, very good. But there is a certain bias, and it lacks a Muslim perspective. But the sad thing is, Muslims are not contributing to that intellectual effort. They're not making their point of view known. They don't even know about modern methods of research in those areas, most of them, the vast majority of our scholars. They're even unaware of it. They're totally in the dark. And so the answers that they could give to these young kids with their questions in this domain are just not even in the ballpark. If you're a Muslim scholar and you want to help our children, you have to be conversant in the type of literature that they are going to encounter when they research Islam. Where else do our young people go? And that's why we need youth sitting here today, you young people sitting here today. For those of you who have the inclination, that's why we need you to enter the fields of religious studies and Middle Eastern studies, etc., so you can master those modes of research and thought and evaluate that research and separate what you feel is strong and for what is weak and help your fellow generation and future generations to come. Where else do they look if they have questions? I'll tell you where they look, because I get this in my emails all the time. Dr. Lang, I had this question about women in Islam, and I, went to the library, couldn't find much, so where did I go? Where do they always come? The internet. The internet generation. They have a question, so they go to Google, and they hit women in Islam, and then whatever their particular issue is. Click, and they go to several hundred websites. They're taken to several hundred websites. And once again, the vast majority of them in English are by non-Muslims, but these are not, by and large, people that are researchers who are trying to strive for some objectivity in their work. These are mostly non-Muslims who are propagandists, who are trying to present a loathsome image of Islam. More than 9 times out of 10, our kids, when they go to those websites, they read the arguments, they see the sources that are used to build those arguments against the religion, and they are shook. So I get emails, Dr. Lang, you've got to go to this website. It's about 20, 30 pages long, but you got to go in there and refute everything that they said. I get one of those emails every couple weeks. If I did nothing else 24 hours a day, I would just be working on websites. Going from one after the next after the next. No, we have to educate our children and teach them how to think, how to think critically, how to approach these type of questions on their own, how to do the kind of research necessary so that they can answer their own questions. We have to bring them up to think. Many of them are unconfident of traditional Islamic law. I mentioned a lot of times that's just because they're associating things that the masjid tells them is demanded by the religion with their religion. And they assume that this is commanded by Islam, or is required by Islamic law. A lot of times, it's highly debatable. Scholars have very, very diverse opinions on that particular subject. A lot of times it has nothing to do with Islamic law at all. It's more a cultural tradition. One other issue, and I don't think this is an issue in Canada, but it certainly is in the United States, because Canada to me is, I always envision it as this idyllic, wonderful, diverse, politically correct, harmonious tapestry of different cultures. I guess you're laughing, so I guess I'm wrong. Actually, when I was 26 and finished graduate school, I was desperate to move to Canada. right after, not too long after Vietnam, and I was pretty much sick of living in America at the time, and I saw my country going in a very bad direction. So I thought, go to Canada. So much of what I say about this may not apply here, but a big problem we have in the American Muslim community, in the United States Muslim community, is this major ethnocentrism. So if you go to the mosque in San Francisco, for example, you have masjids that are actually named by cultural background. That's the Pakistani mosque, that's the Indian mosque, that's the Yemeni mosque, that's the Syrian mosque, and so forth and so on. We even have a Fiji mosque in San Francisco. Our kids say, well, we're like this big dysfunctional family. We can't get along. And Converse sometimes after that what is going on here? Because each mosque promotes, it's in the name of Islam, its peculiar perspective. I talk about this longer, but I'll just give you one very critical example. This one I don't think could be a problem up here. But in the American Muslim community, well, let me explain it with an example. When I became a Muslim, but this is about ethnocentrism, but one particular type. When I became a Muslim, about 2 weeks after I became a Muslim, I was invited to UC Davis to hear this great lecturer speak on Islam. So when I got there, I'm nervous and I'm anxious to hear the speaker. I noticed we're running a little late, as usually at Muslim meetings, because we're usually on at Shallow time. But 15, 20 minutes go by, and then we finally start. And we start, and the speaker gets up there, they introduce, the master of arms, master of ceremony. And he says that, okay, and he makes a dua, reads from the Quran, now we're ready, makes a supplication, reads from the Quran, now we're ready for our speaker. Dr. Lang, would you please come up to the microphone and tell us your experience of coming to this? Did he say my name? Suddenly, I'm put on the spot. I felt like spotlighted.